Oh man, I just got done watching Wrestle Kingdom 13, and I'm gonna do what I did last year and talk about it. But this year I didn't cherry pick like I did last year, where I only watched like a couple of matches. This year I actually watched. Well, I guess technically I didn't watch the pre-show, the never open weight 6-man tag. So I apologize. I didn't literally watch everything, but other than that pre-show match that I watched everything. Last year, how many matches did I watch last year? I think I only watched 5 matches last year, maybe 6. You can go back and watch the old video to correct me on that. Because it all depends on whether or not I watched the Young Bucks match last year. I don't think I did. But yeah, this year I watched all 9 of the main show matches, and it was a pretty okay show, I think. See, my opinion might be a bit swayed because last year, like I said, I only watched like 5 matches. I only watched the big hype matches. And so maybe that would be why my opinion might be a little more negative this year, because I did go to sit through the whole show as opposed to last year where I kind of just skipped over some stuff. Like the tag team matches, neither of them really stood out to me. I just really hate that. Whenever there's like a multi-team matchup, I hate when they feel it's necessary to like tag in and out between the 3 teams, but then they'll also do all the spots where all 6 guys are in the ring, and it's like, why not just make it a tornado environment? Like, what's the point of the tags if you're just not gonna listen to the rules anyway? WWE does it too, so I don't know. It just seems like a Wrestle Kingdom tradition, is there's got to be at least one 3-way tag match in there somewhere. And, like, they were fine for what they were, but I just knew that I wasn't going to like that kind of style of a match, and I gave them a shot anyway, but it didn't really work out for me. Although, it did sort of cement that this was going to be a night for LIJ, Los Ingobernables de Japón. Yeah, because both of their teams won the tag belts. I was a little interested in that heavyweight tag match, because I knew that there had been history between, well, obviously at Dominion, the Young Bucks had beat Los Ingobernables for the heavyweight tag titles, but then in between there, the Guerrillas of Destiny, because there was a big Bullet Club falling out, so the Guerrillas of Destiny had beaten the Young Bucks. So yeah, there was like history to this match that I was aware of for once. So I guess that was kind of interesting, but the match itself, I did like Tama Tonga doing his I'm a good guy thing. And like the only good part of the match that involved like the actual you need to tag in and out was when Tama Tonga went for like the handshake, and Evil, he shook his hand, but it's like, oh, it's a tag, so they're the legal men. But otherwise, like, there was no need to have the tagging in and out at all. Like, the match lasted 10 minutes. So, maybe I'm just nitpicking more, because, like, it didn't even matter that there had to be tags in and out. But yeah, neither of the tag team matchups really stood out to me super much. I mean, the junior heavyweight tag match lasted not even 7 minutes, so whatever. Let's try to go back from the beginning, though. The card opened up with that never open weight match between Will Osprey and Kota Ibushi. And from what I understand, this matchup, like, the booking was just, it's a dream match. Maybe I'm wrong. It's fair to say I'm a casual New Japan fan. Like, more recently, I've gone back and started watching more matches, but I don't keep up with all the shows, so I don't entirely know the story of the booking. But for this one, it just seemed like it was a dream match. Like, that's what commentary was talking about. Like, oh, Will Osprey wanted this match for months, and, everyone's excited to see it. And I guess fair enough. Like, I know Will Osprey, I've seen some of his other matches. I saw his match with Okada, and obviously I saw the junior heavyweight fatal 4-way last year, so I know that Osprey's got some cool stuff he does. Like, he's pretty cool in the ring. And Kota Ibushi is one of the best wrestlers on the planet. His match with Tanahashi in the G1 Climax was amazing, and of course I also know him from the Cruiserweight Classic. And then I've been going back and watching various different matches to try to study up on my New Japan, try to become a little bit more aware of the product. Like, some of it was just to prepare for this Wrestle Kingdom, but over the course of the year, I've been getting more into the program. So I did go back and watch, like, the Golden Lovers versus the Young Bucks. So, like, I think the Bullet Club falling out is probably the thing I'm a little most familiar with, just because I also watch Being the Elite, and that kind of gives some of the context there. So, yeah, Kota Ibushi, he's good in tag matches, good in singles matches, but this one, I don't know, I wasn't really a big fan of it. I don't want to say that I set my expectations too high, because I don't know, I didn't understand really the hype for this matchup, other than, like, I knew that Osprey could do some cool flippy shit. Like, there was the tag match where it was Tanahashi and Osprey versus Ibushi and Omega, and there were some cool spots there. The tag match wasn't super interesting to me, but I figured, hey, maybe they can get me back in this one. But everybody else seemed to be super hyped for it, so, you know, I was hoping they would surprise me, and they didn't really. Like, there were some cool spots, like Ibushi getting hung upside down in a tree of woe, and then just kind of having that battle of slaps with Osprey. That was cool. There were some cool exchanges, like counters. You had Ibushi going for the golden triangle moonsault, but he gets kicked in the face by Osprey. That was cool. So there were good counters, but honestly, I thought this matchup would be like faster. This match was kind of slow for what I was expecting from these guys, because like I said, I know them for that kind of fast-paced, high-flying sort of style. And, you know, Ibushi does his striking stuff too, so I expected Osprey would have some of that as well. And we did get some of those striking battles, but I don't know, it just seemed to be... This one felt slow to me. I don't quite know what it was. Basically, the point is, I didn't really care for this matchup. Not to say that it was a bad match. You know, everyone's got their own taste, their own opinions, but this one just felt kind of off to me. And the finish as well kind of surprised me, because I thought... And this is, again, me not being all too familiar with Osprey's moveset. I thought his finisher was the Os Cutter, but he hit him with the Storm Breaker, and yeah, that put him away. I was like, oh, that's it? This was the dream match, huh? So, you know, I'm sure somebody enjoyed it, and that's fine that I didn't. Like I said, it's not a bad match. It just, I guess, wasn't my cup of tea. So that was a bit of a disappointment to start off the show. Plus, Ibushi got carried out on a stretcher. I don't know if that's part of storyline, because I feel like if Ibushi was like legitimately knocked out or whatever, Osprey probably wouldn't have got him up for the Stormbreaker, so I don't know quite what the situation is there. Not to say that Ibushi might not be injured. He did go like face first into the ring post at one point, and it looked like he might have broken his nose or something, because he had, or chipped a tooth or whatever, because like, I don't know, he was bleeding from the mouth or the nose somewhere. So yeah, that was the opening matchup. Then there was, I already talked about the 2 tag matches, so I'll skip over those. The first match that really kind of started to pique my interest was the British Heavyweight Championship match between Saber Jr. and Tomohiro Ishii. I'm not super familiar with Ishii's moveset. I haven't done a whole lot of digging into his matches, but I could, because I know he's faced some of like the, you know, the who's who of New Japan. Ishii's one of the, kind of like the setup guy for Okada, or at least that's what he was for Okada's big title reign as the IWGP Heavyweight Champion. And of course, Saber Jr. He was a part of probably one of my favorite wrestling matches of all time, with Noam Dar at the Cruiserweight Classic. So I know what Saber Jr. is about, even if I haven't watched many of his matches, but I know he's good at like maneuvering. I don't know if that's more just the British style, able to maneuver in and out of submission holds and grapples and whatnot. And yeah, this match had a good story to it. Saber Jr. working on the arm of Ishii, and Tomohiro Ishii just being the brawler, just beating the crap out of Saber Jr. But Saber Jr. eventually gets the win, was working on the arm the whole match, and then he put him away with some sort of submission, right? It was a submission. I already forget the finish to this match. It wasn't super memorable, but again, like, one thing, see, that's the thing I did kind of have to think more about to recontextualize some of my opinions on these matches, because obviously not every match is going to get the time that like a main event would. So this matchup I thought was pretty good for what it needed to be, but the next matchup between Juice Robinson and Cody I thought was really disappointing, and part of that could just be because it's in the middle of the card, so it's not going to get the time that a main event would, because I like Juice Robinson. I went back and watched his match with Switchblade Jay White, and that was a really good match. But then again, like, it was the main event of the show it was a part of, so it was, I don't know, 20 plus minutes or whatever, so they had time to work and really tell a story there. And I knew that there was a story going into this one. Obviously 2 years ago, Cody beat Juice Robinson at Wrestle Kingdom 11. That was like Cody's arrival to New Japan. I think he was the big incoming foreign talent, and Juice Robinson had just graduated from the, I don't know if graduated is the word, but I'm going to say that, from the New Lions dojo. So Juice, you kind of got made a fool of by Cody there. And then obviously he beat Jay White to win the US title, but then Cody took it away from him in his first title defense. And even then with Juice Robinson, like, he beat Jay White by a roll-up. And that's not to say that, like, his victory wasn't earned, but, like, the way that he won the match, it does, I think, play into this story of Juice still trying to kind of find his place in New Japan. He's still trying to kind of break out. So I felt as though, you know, maybe Cody taking the title off of him after Juice literally just beat Jay White for the belt was maybe kind of weird, but building up to this matchup to kind of get the, what would you call it, the reflection of their Wrestle Kingdom encounter 2 years prior, I think it worked. The matchup was pretty garbage though. Like, Brandy Rhodes getting involved was kind of weird. There was at one point where she was like, I can understand the part where she like actually attacked Juice, and instead of like getting Cody disqualified, she just gets thrown out because, I don't know, in the referee's position, you could say, well, he wants to give Juice a fair shot at the title, and if he just disqualified Cody, then Juice wouldn't get the title. So that makes sense, but I don't know. Brandy had some weird interference in this matchup. Like, when she just walked in the ring and the referee is just like, no, get out, but like not, you know, ejecting her right then and there. I don't know. This matchup just really didn't gel with me. It only had 9 minutes, so I felt like it didn't have any time to breathe, because immediately Brandy gets ejected and Cody's like already going for crossroads, and there was like no setup. This match just went from, it began, and then Brandy starts getting involved, and then she gets thrown out, and then Cody hits the big moves, and that's it. There was really no story here, I don't feel. So that was disappointing. I'm glad that Juice won the US title, because I don't think Cody really needs to hold it. He's got all this stuff going on with All Elite Wrestling and All In 2, so I guess that'll be cool. But yeah, Juice, I feel like the whole point of Cody taking the belt was, again, just to kind of lead to this payoff of Juice getting his revenge for Wrestle Kingdom 2 years ago, as well as beating Cody for taking the US title from him, and now Juice is a big star. And I had heard some things like he was booked kind of weird, like in the G1 he lost a lot, so maybe that's set up for future matches to come, future opponents. I'm hoping that he holds this US title for a bit, but we'll see where that goes. I would like to see Juice Robinson succeed though, because he was a nobody in NXT. Like, he was CJ Parker, he was Save the Planet guy. You know, not that his character, like, the guy who wants to save the planet is the heel. That's kind of weird, but, you know, I guess he was being obnoxious, so whatever. But yeah, Juice Robinson, it's cool to see in NXT sort of flop, a guy who I guess couldn't really find himself in NXT, or maybe that wasn't just the style for him. It's cool to see him have success elsewhere. Instead of, it's kind of the opposite, where in something like TNA, a former WWE guy goes there and they kind of get recognition off of being a former WWE guy. You could maybe make the argument that that's what somebody like Cody is. But in the case of Juice Robinson, he's someone who couldn't make a name for himself in WWE, so he goes over and, you know, makes a name for himself in New Japan. So it's kind of the opposite of that story, and I think that's a cool dynamic between these two. Again, I just wish the match was interesting. It just wasn't. This is probably my least favorite match that I watched on the card. Like, the Osprey Ibushi match was kind of disappointing, but I at least enjoyed it to an extent. This match just feels like there should have been way more, and I wanted to like this one more, and I can't. Then there was the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship match between Taiji Ishimori and Kushida. I don't really have much to say about this matchup. It was fine. It was good. But I don't really know too much about either of these guys. I think Kushida was in the Fatal 4-Way with Osprey for the Junior Heavyweight title last year, right? Yes, he was there. He was there with Marty Scurll and Hiromu Takahashi. But yeah, I don't know too much about Kushida. I don't know much about Taiji Ishimori. The match was fine, and that's all I'm going to say about that. Then, arguably the matchup I was looking forward to the most, Jay White, Switchblade Jay White versus the Rainmaker Kazuchika Okada. This matchup was really good. Again, this is one I think it could have done more, but because of where it was on the card, it only got 14. I'm going off the Wikipedia page. It says 14 minutes, 20 seconds. So naturally, it's not going to live up. Well, in different ways, it did different things than their previous match at the G1 Climax. Because again, that was the main event of that show. So that was the final match on the card, if I'm recalling correctly. So they had more time to do things. And so that match had a little more breathing room. But I think this one basically did what it needed to do. I liked the sort of callback of Okada donning the previous Rainmaker gear. He ditches the tights and now he's got the trunks again, or the pants, whatever. Now he's got the trunks. So, and he had dyed his hair blonde again, so he got rid of the red that he had been wearing. I just like the story that's going with Okada. He was the champ for so long, and now that he doesn't have the title, he had to find himself, and even then, like, he donned the Rainmaker attire, but he still hasn't really found himself. He hasn't gotten back to be the Rainmaker. So I was a little unsure of who was going to win this match. I thought it would be kind of surprising if Jay White actually did pick up the win because Okada is such a big name. But in saying that, Okada is such a big name that he can easily afford a loss to Jay White here, especially considering it continues to further Okada's the character arc he's on right now. So yeah, there were just a lot of cool things in this matchup. Like, Okada was kind of going through the motions of being the Rainmaker without actually recapturing that Rainmaker persona. Like, there's always the big thing of, oh, he hits somebody and he's always maintaining wrist control and he sets him up for the Rainmaker, the clothesline, the finish. But he never really did that in this matchup. Like, he did hit a cool looking discus Rainmaker, but he never, like, kept that wrist control. He never had him the way the Rainmaker would have someone like Jay White in his grasp. So Okada still has to keep finding himself. I don't know how else to say it. He's still not quite the Rainmaker, but I did think it was cool to have him don that attire and go back to being, like, he's trying to tap into the Rainmaker of old. He's trying to go back to what he was, but mentally he's not fully there yet. And as for Jay White, this guy is on a roll. Like, Jay White, I think, has been quickly, like, climbing up the ranks on my favorites list. Because, like, his match with Kenny Omega at, not New Beginning. No, it is the New Beginning, because I'm thinking New Year's Dash is going to be the show immediately after. So here's what I'm thinking. Of course, this video probably won't come out. This might come out either the day of or the day after New Year's Dash. So I'm thinking Jay White might just kind of go on and challenge Hiroshi Tanahashi for the IWGP title, and I think Jay White's going to take it off him. The way that I mean, he might not, but I mean, the way that Jay White has been built, like, as I was trying to get to earlier, like, he beat Kenny Omega for the US title at New Year's Dash not New Year's Dash. Now I'm getting him confused. At the New Beginning last year. And the thing with Jay White, like, he can just hit that Blade Runner. It's not a move that I think would be as versatile as it is, but Jay White can he can hit you with that almost out of nowhere. Because I think of someone like Sister Abigail, like when Bray Wyatt uses it. He's had a couple of creative ways that he's used it, like the one time he caught Bryan through the ropes at the Royal Rumble and, like, rammed him into the barricade, but I can't really think of anything else other than that. Whereas, like, Jay White, he counters the one-winged angel out of it to beat Omega. He countered the Rainmaker into it. He countered the Tombstone into, like, set it up. With, how did he do it with Hangman Page? I don't know, there was another cool sequence where it's just like he can counter almost anything into it, and it looks great. So Jay White is pretty cool. But again, I keep going from one tangent to the next, but, like, Jay White, I've been studying up on him this past year. Because, like, he returned, I had said in the previous video, when I talked about Wrestle Kingdom 12, I had said that I was kind of disappointed in the Tanahashi Jay White match of last year's Wrestle Kingdom, because, I don't know, it was cool, but, like, hadn't really clicked with me in the way of like, oh, this is a classic match. But when I was going back through Jay White's catalog in 2018, as I said, his match with Kenny Omega at the New Beginning was great. His match with Hangman Page was pretty all right. I'm still not too familiar with Hangman Page, so that one didn't blow me away, but it was pretty cool. His match with Juice Robinson was great. The way that he's able to work the crowd, Juice Robinson, I don't think is that big of a name in New Japan, but in that show, it was over in the US, so obviously the crowd was way different. But Jay White was able to adapt to that crowd so well, and really, because the Japanese crowd is different with how they react. I don't want to say they're as vocal, or at least not in, they're more respectable. Whereas a US crowd, it's going to be more rowdy. They're more, they're more likely to, I don't know, chant things or whatever. So, I mean, Jay White really worked that crowd behind Juice Robinson, and he was a hell of a heel. And when Juice Robinson rolled him up and won that match, it's like, holy shit, this guy's like the next breakout star. He just had his big breakout moment. And so there was the match with Juice Robinson at the G1 Climax. He had a great match with, obviously, Kazuchika Okada. Their first encounter was really good. The second match he had with Tanahashi was also great. And even then, I think it was, or no, maybe I didn't watch the G1 match with Tanahashi. Maybe I think I only watched the briefcase match with Tanahashi, actually. But yeah, Jay White's good. He's great. And another thing that kind of helped with me going back and watching all these matches is I was able to kind of, the more you're familiar with a guy's moveset, the more you're familiar with matches from the past, you can pick up certain like story beats that are carried across matches or certain trademarks that go with a guy. So for Jay White, he always has this thing where he'll get a chair involved. And so while he's had Gato at ringside, Gato will distract the referee, he'll grab a chair, and he'll hit the guy with it or try to hit the guy with it. Sometimes he takes out the referee, sometimes he hits the guy, sometimes he misses. But yeah, there's just a lot of cool things going for this matchup, a lot of cool things going for Jay White. It would seem kind of surprising if they would put Jay White, like if they would put the IWGP Heavyweight title on him already, but they're kind of building him as like this anti-Rainmaker, like he's the antithesis of Okada, but like he's got a very similar rise, a very similar meteoric rise. Whereas Okada like first debuted, and then he beat Tanahashi for the IWGP title in like his second match or whatever, as the Rainmaker at least. But Jay White, he had his match with Tanahashi last year, which even then, like, for his return match, like, after he came back from his excursion that the New Lions usually do, like, he came back into a program with Tanahashi. It might not have been a super great, like, blow-away match, but he still got put into a program with Tanahashi for the Intercontinental title. He was not the sub-main event, but he was the third to last match, which is the position he has again here with Okada. But I mean, yeah, Jay White, he's had a lot of high profile, he's been put in a very high profile place, just like Okada was when he first debuted. And so it would be poetic if Jay White would take the title off of Tanahashi, and there's always some sort of big twist at the New Beginning and at New Year's Dash. There's something that happens and it shakes up the status quo. It's something that catches you off guard. Would it be Jay White beating Tanahashi for the IWGP Heavyweight title? I don't know, but I guess that's more to think about once New Year's Dash actually happens, because again, by the time I post this video, it might even be outdated, and that would suck, but hopefully not. We'll see. Anyways, I guess to give final thoughts on the match, Jay White is the man. Okada is still the man, but on this night, he was not the man, and he lost to Jay White. I mean, I know Becky Lynch is the man, but yeah. Anyways, moving on to the sub-main event. They call it the double main event, but I mean, whatever. I mean, like, there's probably a significance to it for certain characters that they are in the, in this double main event. Last year it was Omega and Jericho and Okada and Naito. This year it's Naito and Jericho, Omega and Tanahashi. But this is no disqualification match for the IWGP Intercontinental Championship. Naito versus Chris Jericho. This matchup definitely had to do a little bit to kind of impress me, because I know that Jericho, the previous year, his no disqualification match with Kenny Omega was really good, and then His Dominion match with Naito was, I mean, it was all right. I don't think it was as good as his match with Omega, but Jericho, yeah, I know that there's, because I've been checking out certain videos as well, just trying to kind of see what the community response is sort of to all of this, some of these storylines, not literally everything, but some of the more major ones. And so I know that Jericho's title reign has kind of gotten flack for being very Brock Lesnar-esque. At least, you know, I compare it to Brock Lesnar's like universal title reign, where he's like never around. And but Jericho, I don't quite know how I feel about it, because again, I don't keep up with everything. So I didn't even see Jericho's match with Evil for the title. But yeah, the Dominion match was okay. I thought it was fine. I mean, Jericho is being a good heel, beating the shit out of Naito. That's just kind of Jericho's character in New Japan now, is he's just this brawler guy. He just beats the crap out of everybody, and he just gets into street fights with people. And so that's what this matchup with Naito was, basically. And it was pretty good. Definitely not match of the night for me. I actually think I prefer the Jay White Okada match more to this, but there were good moments in it. I do like the idea that Jericho is kind of a personification of like Naito's. Is it partially his hatred of the Intercontinental title? Is it his dissatisfaction with not really breaking through to the main event? I'm not entirely sure what specifically Jericho represents, or maybe it's a mix of both. But I did like that dynamic to this rivalry. So really, that Jericho is only kind of connected to Naito. Like, his one other title defense was against Evil, someone else from Los Ingobernables de Japón. So I do think it's interesting that Jericho hasn't done a whole lot with the Intercontinental title. Like, he's only really been connected to Naito as far as like that title scene has been concerned. Like, yeah, he did have his debut match with Omega, so it's not like Jericho is literally only there to put over Naito, but I think maybe you kind of get the picture. Anyways, this matchup was good. I liked it. I liked the spot where Naito just kind of wound up the kendo stick like a baseball bat and just took a swing at Jericho. That was neat. Were there any other big spots? Nothing that's really coming to mind. What I should have done is I should have taken notes on the show as it went along, but I didn't do that because I'm not smart. But yes, I did like this match overall. Not my favorite match of the night. Maybe it's like third favorite, I guess, because I'd probably say that I liked the build up and just everything that the Jay White Kazuchika Okada match represented more than this Naito Jericho match. But I will be interested to see where Naito goes. It was a clean sweep for Los Ingobernables de Japón on this Wrestle Kingdom, because the junior heavyweight tag titles, the heavyweight tag titles, and then the Intercontinental Championship all changes hands. So I'm curious to see where Naito goes next. And I do think it is sort of interesting that Naito and Jay White have been kept apart for this point. Like, I don't know, maybe Jay White goes back for the Intercontinental title instead of the heavyweight title, but I feel like there'd be more of a story between Jay White and Tanahashi than White and Naito, and maybe there's a reason why White and Naito have been kept apart, but that's speculation on my part, not as much a review of the show. So then we move on to the main event of the evening, Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Kenny Omega for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. And I really do like this matchup. I like the ideological battle that it brings to the table. I know that there has been some criticism of Kenny Omega's title reign from, I'd imagine, more diehard New Japan fans. There's all sorts of... There's a lot to unpack with this matchup and a lot to unpack with Kenny Omega. I did watch the triple threat between the triple threat between Ibushi and Rhodes and Omega, and that matchup was okay. Like, I can see why people call it a bad match. I didn't think it was... I don't know. Like, it is definitely different to the normal New Japan formula, and I don't know. I guess I'm kind of... I don't know the full context of everything, so take everything that I'm saying with a grain of salt, but I feel like New Japan... See, I know I'd be interested in New Japan because it's kind of... It provides an alternative to WWE, not that it is an alternate WWE. So I would like to see, you know, I think it is nice to kind of make, you know, not necessarily have a stale product, make some changes every now and then, but I do like New Japan's formula overall. I like what they do with the title scenes, how they break everything up into factions, and then, you know, it's all kind of based around those factions initially. So when a champion loses their title, you'll have somebody from their faction be the next challenger. So when Omega lost the US title to Jay White, it was Hangman Page who stepped up next. And it's kind of, it provides a logical through line and a very easy setup for the next match. Something that I generally have issues with when I try to book things is, you know, when a title changes hands, what do I do next? WWE will typically have a rematch clause after that, but that's not always that interesting, and sometimes it very much feels like it's just forced. Like, it's not a storyline I really want to do, but if I have the rematch clause, like, unless I can think of a good reason to not do it, I kind of got to do it again. And I feel like there might be more interesting ways to book that. And I think New Japan presents an interesting alternative with this whole faction thing. Sometimes even then you have like the second to the champion in that faction will serve as a setup guy. That's where someone like Hiroki Goto comes in, or I think Bad Luck Fale served as that for Omega at some point during the Dominion rematch between Omega and Okada. Not the 2 out of 3 falls one, but in 2017 when they had their first rematch after the big Wrestle Kingdom match. So I do think that New Japan has an interesting formula, and I definitely would be concerned if it started switching over to a more WWE style, and I guess that's kind of what Omega potentially represents, and I can definitely see why people would take issue with that. But again, I don't know the full nuances of it, because like from the outside perspective of not really knowing what's going on and being a casual New Japan fan, I feel like it's kind of blown out of proportion, but again, that's why I say take everything with a grain of salt, because I don't fully know the situation. Anyways, I like the ideology battle, the battle of the philosophy, everything, the battle of ideologies, philosophies, theologies in some cases, like for Tanahashi, the whole ties to like wrestling as a religion, and how that kind of connected to Kota Ibushi in the G1 Climax final, how like Ibushi was fighting his god in Tanahashi. There's just a lot of cool elements going into this matchup, and even if there's a lot of ties to real life for some of the things, like there's a new New Japan president that took over in 2018, so people are concerned about the direction the product's gonna go. So there is a very tangible connection to reality as well. Admittedly, I can't fully appreciate that because I don't know the full context, and in some cases, knowing that connection to reality kind of made this perhaps a little more problematic. But, I mean, it was Tanahashi who won in the end, which was kind of a surprise to me. I figured that Omega was going to hang on to the belt for quite a bit after, you know, picking it up from Okada. But I didn't know who he was going to drop it to. And the big question going into this matchup was like, if Omega beats Tanahashi, then who's next? Because Naito is stuck with the Intercontinental title, and obviously Okada just lost to Jay White. So it was a matter of like who was going to step up next. Ibushi, I don't know what's going on with Ibushi. He just lost to Osprey. So like who was going to be next? I don't know. So maybe that wasn't the original plan. Maybe the original plan was to keep the belt on Omega for who knows how long, but I don't know, maybe because there was supposedly like public backlash against this. Again, I don't know the full story, so I won't go too much into speculation there, but I do think giving the belt to Tanahashi was probably the smart move, because again, I look at someone like Jay White, someone who has history with Tanahashi and very much appears to be on the rise. That'd be an interesting direction to go. A rematch with Omega and Tanahashi could be interesting, I guess. Naito has the Intercontinental title now, so I don't know what happens there. Okada just lost. But yeah, Tanahashi at least makes things a little more unpredictable, I guess. But yeah, this matchup was really good. I had gone back and watched their previous match from 2 years ago, or was it 3 years ago? I think it was in 2016, because it was right after Omega usurped AJ Styles as the leader of Bullet Club. So their previous match for the IWGP Intercontinental title. That matchup was alright. I really wasn't a big fan of that encounter. It might not have even been their first encounter in New Japan, but that's a match that got uploaded for free on the New Japan YouTube channel, and Yeah, I mean, that matchup wasn't super great. This one, I don't know, maybe it's just because it had more high spots. So this is a weird case where, like, my taste in wrestling, I don't fully know how to describe it yet, because sometimes I do like the high spots and sometimes I don't. So I don't really know where I lie. I like a good blend of, like, that classic wrestling style where it's more about, like, the technical ability and the grapples, and that's, again, like, one of my favorite matches is Noam Dar versus Saber Jr., and that's very, you know, wrestling purist. It's a lot of just submissions and maneuvering in and out of holds and seeing who is the better wrestler, the better grappler, technician, that sort of thing. Whereas sometimes it's all about the high-flying moves and people risking their bodies in some ways, ways that feels, you know, maybe a little unnecessary. I recently went back and watched, I think it was the Survivor Series match between Buddy Murphy and Mustafa Ali, and some of the bumps Mustafa Ali was taking looked ridiculous. They looked way over the top. I don't know why. That seems like he was just asking for an injury, but whatever. Again, I don't know the full... I don't really watch WWE anymore. I only check out a couple matches from time to time. But getting back on topic, if I can stop going off tangents, Tanahashi versus Omega, the main event, it was definitely worthy of the main event slot. I guess it's the second longest Wrestle Kingdom main event in history now, behind the first Omega Okada match, so that's cool. As far as the ideological clash goes, I liked the spot with the table where Tanahashi was so determined not to use it, but then he went to use it towards the end. He went to turn to the dark side, but he missed. Omega got out of the way, and so Tanahashi kind of crashed and burned for betraying his ideology. Omega, I don't know what Omega's supposed to be. Is he still kind of a tweener? Because he seems kind of like... He almost seemed like he represented sort of like a gaijin ace. So it was kind of like the ace versus, you know, the foreign ace in this case. But in that sense, that also kind of makes Omega a bit of a heel, because there is this, you know, ominous upcoming seeming change in New Japan with, like, you know, just the new talent coming in and the, what is it? The new president. So there definitely is a concern of, like, that foreign influence and trying to WWE-ify New Japan, which is a concern. So Omega in some ways represents kind of the face dynamic, and in some ways represents the heel. And when he beat Okada, I thought he was more of like a face-ish, but I guess he's just always been a tweener. I guess that's the dynamic of Omega's character, and he never... I don't know, it seems like he's kind of trying to... Like, that's the struggle of his character. Like, he's trying to get out of those heelish ways, and he's trying to become a better person with something like the reunion of the Golden Lovers. But then again, he still kind of, I guess, has that sort of stigma that, you know, he's the heel, he's the foreigner, he's former leader of Bullet Club, so he has a reputation that precedes him. But Omega definitely did play a good heel here. Like, he's going up against Tanahashi, the ace of the universe. He's the golden boy in New Japan, so... I mean, the crowd was certainly behind him, so Omega playing the heel definitely worked. He did get some cheers every now and then, but, you know, it all, like, there was the spot where Tanahashi went through the table, and then Omega could have won by countout, but he threw him back in the ring. So he does some honorable stuff, but then he'll also play the heel, and that's something that Okada will do from time to time as well. So, I mean, it's cool that Omega can do that. I like that kind of versatility in characters, that ability to kind of do both, I guess. I don't think it was I didn't like this match as much as Tanahashi's match with Ibushi in the G1 Climax final, but I did really like this match. I think one of the spots that sort of tipped to me that Tanahashi was probably going to win, although it's not, you know, it's kind of easy to say that when it was like 30 minutes into the match, but as soon as Omega did his big avalanche German suplex, or maybe it's more of like a full Nelson suplex thing, as soon as he did that, I was starting to suspect that Tanahashi might take it, because they had mentioned, like, oh, this is the second time he did the move or whatever, but I was like, in my head, I was like, the last match that he used that move in, he lost, because it was against Okada at Wrestle Kingdom 12. No, Wrestle Kingdom 11. And sure enough, Tanahashi picked up the win. This matchup was... I did like this matchup because it was unpredictable. I didn't really know who was going to win. Like, I had thought going in that Omega was probably going to take it, but with the kind of story that was being told here and the ideological battle, there could be like positives and negatives of either man winning in the grand scheme of things. So yeah, this was a really interesting match, and it was wrestled really well. You get kind of the clash of styles, Omega doing things like, you know, bringing in the table and doing more of those, I guess going for more of those high spots and taking things to the outside of the ring. Tanahashi trying to keep things in the ring and go for more of that, you know, that ring purist style. So there was the ideological battle, there was the clash of in-ring styles. Overall, I thought it was a really great match. It was a good main event to bring the card home. And yeah, for me, I was kind of hoping that I would enjoy the beginning half of the card a little more, but really it was those final 3 matches that were the big takeaway. Yeah, because overall those are the 3 that I'm going to remember. But then again, I guess they do focus on the biggest stars in the company, so I guess that makes sense. That's fair. I don't really have a rating system. I don't remember if I rated Wrestle Kingdom 12 when I did this video, so I guess 2 thumbs up for me for Wrestle Kingdom 13. That's not 2 thumbs up out of anything. It was a good show. I mean, yeah, like it took a while to kind of get to the big stuff that really captivated me. Like, I wanted more out of the United States match between Juice and Cody. I didn't really get that. Yeah, I guess the only thing that reasonably disappointed me that I expected more from was the Osprey Ibushi match, and they did get like 18 minutes. So I mean, there were certain things, like Osprey apparently had gotten back off of like a rib injury or something, so maybe that messed him up a bit. Cody was apparently wrestling with like a torn meniscus or whatever, like he had some sort of knee leg injury, so that might have sabotaged. Maybe Cody could have done more, but that injury kind of hampered him, and the same kind of with Osprey. I don't know really what was going on, but those are my thoughts on Wrestle Kingdom 13. What did you think of the show? Did you even watch the show? Did you even make it to the end of this video? Let me know everything down in the comments. And do you want me to do more of these thoughts? I know I'm rambly, but I thought about doing one for Dominion, and they ended up not doing it, but I could do one for, because realistically, I'll definitely watch Dominion again. I don't know if I'm going to watch anything in between there. Well, I guess my subscription will at the very least last through the end of the month, so maybe I can watch the show at the end of January, the new beginning. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, that does it for me. I will see you next time.